Hello, I'm Martin Dukiamis. I'm recording this as an abbreviated version of a talk that I gave at OEGlobal 24 in Brisbane last week in November. And in case you don't know who I am, I'm the founder of Moodle and the head of research there. I'm also a board director on Open Education Global, and I'm also the founder of Open EdTech. And there's some contact details there if you want to reach out. So I wanted to tell you about an idea I have for a project, or really a proposal for a project that OEGlobal as an organization might take on. To save you some time, I'm going to go straight to chase and show you some of the takeaways. So this is the chain of logic I'm going to be covering in this talk. So first of all, let's look at some of the trends of AI, and I want to convince you that AI will be the primary creator of educational content in the future. It allows customization per student. It's going to lead to rapid evolution of all fields. There's going to be way more content than ever before, and we're going to be using it to either create or transform data all over the place. There is a crisis happening. Knowledge quality is degrading because we have disinformation and misinformation on the rise, and we have bias and cultural imbalances being magnified right now. The solution is that OEGlobal could collect quality OER and use it to activate future AI. We have the relevance, we have the coordination, we have educational expertise, and we have cultural diversity, and I feel like we're ideally placed. And I really think that doing that, we can help improve how humanity learns forever. So it's super important. The other thing I want to get across is we should stop thinking of the internet as a library and start thinking of the internet as a student. And more on that in a moment. So let's look at some of the trends. To think about the future of education and technology, we have to look at the whole world. And I've been spending a lot of time doing that, researching all kinds of different fields. And this is what I'm giving you is my best take on what's going on. Let's look at the automated world that's coming. The AI that we're using now is the worst AI you're ever going to use in your life. The capabilities are increasing rapidly. There is a lot of improvement, a lot of investment, a lot of reason for this to be happening. So it's absolutely unassailable fact. If you look at a Gartner hype cycle, maybe we're around here. Maybe it won't flatten off. I think it might actually just keep going up and up and up, but we'll see. So LLMs basically summarize everything they've seen, just like our brains do. And that's why we're in education and learning, because we're trying to influence and affect and help people put more into their brains. So they look at what we've produced as human beings, and they have the output they do. And sure, you've seen video generation happening. High quality videos are coming, are around already in short form, and it's a matter of time before we're generating entire movies with a prompt. We have text and search. Obviously, a lot of you are using chatbots, I imagine, already. Try using perplexity.ai if you haven't, but that was the pioneer in combining chats with search. So when you ask it things or you want to discuss certain things, it's able to go out and search the internet and find up-to-date information all the time. And all the big mainstream AI platforms, the commercial ones, are adding features like that and have recently added features like that to their capabilities. Music generation, it's very easy to generate music. If I press this, well, it's not going to happen right now because the way I'm recording this tape, but anyway, you can record music, very high quality songs. You can generate worlds. This experiment populated a world of Minecraft with 1,000 AIs, and they started forming communities and making democracy and all kinds of interesting things. There's also game generation happening where you can play a game that's generated on the fly, and it seems like video games are going to be going in that direction where we have custom generated games depending on our whims. Multimodal interactions, we can now talk to AI, we can have all kinds of conversations and ask it to talk in other languages or accents or funny voices, and it will do it. It can see and read our documents and have a full multimodal interaction. This example here is a podcast generation LM notebook from Google. I won't play it right now because I'm trying to keep this short, but very, very high quality voices that most people would not be able to pick from a human being. And of course we have the augmented reality and virtual reality. It's not a new thing, but it is new that things like the Vision Pro have been able to demonstrate the extreme quality. So it's like a proof of concept that you can integrate the digital world into your real world with such a high quality that it makes it really, it's amazing to experience if you haven't tried it yet. But that is the future, that we will be seeing a lot more digital world in our real world presented through glasses, and the technology for these glasses is coming down rapidly. There are lots of prototypes that look like this and have screens that basically look like normal glasses. Another thing that's happening is robots, and this is a particular robot that got a lot of attention because OpenAI is involved, but here's another one from a Chinese company. This costs around $16,000 to produce. It folds up like this. It's a small, light thing. It's about 35 kilograms and eminently programmable. So you can put any sort of software in there to make it work. It could be open source and it could be something from the company, but these things will be everywhere. And this has full motion. You can walk around and grip things and, you know, with the right programming, do your laundry, wash your dishes, things like that. So this kind of future in Bicentennial Man is actually very close. We're talking a few years away. And the interesting thing about all this is that AI will replace most human labor. As soon as anything is better or cheaper or faster or safer than a human being doing it, somebody's going to replace that human being. And it's going to be millions of micro decisions that mean that the automated labor becomes a fact of our life. And it's all around us. Now, the best case world with this scenario is a utopia of post-scarcity where robots are doing all the work and we are living basically a life of freedom. There'll have to be some sort of solution for the economy. Universal basic income is one proposal. There are others, but that's something that our governments are going to have to work out because there could be unemployment of 70–80% in the next decade or two. What would we do? There's plenty, so don't worry. You know, there's if you really think about it, there is a lot of these upper ends of Maslow's hierarchy of needs we don't have time for today because we're spending so much time working to support our physiological and safety needs. And we don't have time for friends, and we don't have time for accomplishing things outside of work or actualizing ourselves as a human living being. There is plenty to do. We'll have more and more free time to learn, pursue hobbies, support projects, engage in local community groups, save the earth and care for each other, and less daily grind working for organisations just to earn a living. This is what rich people already do. So we know that if you are freed up from having to work, these are the things you do. So this is not rocket science. It's just something that we could potentially all be doing. Now, the worst case is that corporates are controlling all of the labour. We are part of their world, and it looks something like Cyberpunk 2077 or some other dystopia. Or maybe Big Brother is more to your taste, but there is certainly a lot of possibilities of mass surveillance, of control, of influence, and lots of possible bad futures that we could be facing. And I'm deadly serious that these are possibilities. There are non-zero possibilities for all of this stuff. So let's look at the crisis. You know, apart from this dystopia, the crisis we have right now, and there are many, we have a multi-crisis going on. There are all kinds of things that are happening around the world right now which are not great. But I'm going to focus on one, which is disinformation and misinformation, which is at the heart of a lot of it. And why? Because if you look at another view of the problems in the world, the Sustainable Development Goals, one of them there is quality education. And I've often said, and a lot of people often say, that you can't solve any of the others without quality education. Education is at the heart of any kind of change or any sort of improvements we can be doing in our culture into the future. And quality education and AI, they both require quality information. Now let's look at information. So this is a few examples I'm going to show you. This is me playing with Khan Amigo, the Khan Academy, and within a few questions I was able to convince the tutor to insist that subtracting 2 from 15 gives you 12. And that's an example of the way LLMs currently work. They're quite easy to sway, and we use words like hallucinations or confabulations, but they are in fact putting together information much like we do, and they'll make the same kind of mistakes. They can be convinced, they can fill in gaps, they can assume things. Another thing that's been going on is that with these LLMs, a lot of people are translating things, and this paper shows that a shocking amount of the web is machine translated. Not perfectly, as you might imagine, and so errors would be creeping in. Let's look at this one. It's a journal. You may have seen this. It went a bit viral, a particular journal about a rat. And these were some pictures in the journal paper that somehow cleared review and got published. It was retracted later, but it got through. And that's an AI-generated image, clearly, using the current AI technology, which, as I've said, is the worst we're ever going to see, but still, it's easy for lack of quality to creep into information. Here's another paper. You could see, if you look closely at the text in yellow, that there are particular clues that they use ChatGPT. I don't have access to real-time information or patient-specific data, as I'm an AI language model. That got into the abstract for the paper and published. Here's another paper. Certainly here is a possible introduction for your topic. Another AI giveaway that everybody missed and got through to review. So it's happening. The internet is filling up with poor quality data, and not everyone is super concerned about it. Why this matters is that this paper shows that AI models can collapse when trained on recursively generated data. And they showed this example where you have an image generator generating pictures of dogs. It's been trained on lots of original pictures of dogs, of course. And then subsequent versions of the AI are trained on the output of the previous AI. And as you go further and further, it just turns into mush, turns into nonsense. And they're saying it will become increasingly difficult to train newer versions of LLMs without access to data crawled from the internet before the mass adoption of AI technology, or direct access to data generated by humans at scale. Now that last bit is what I'm proposing a solution to, and we'll get to that. The other big issue is the cultural bias and alignment of large language models. A lot of them come from the places like the US, Silicon Valley, some in Europe, in China. Now, all of them are based on data that they can find, and usually it's scraped off the web. And even the data that's on the web or in books and so on are written by very particular people with particular agendas and particular needs and so on. And so that's great. I'm not saying that that's bad. What I'm saying is it's incomplete, and it doesn't represent the full breadth of human civilization and all the rich ecosystem that we are as a species. And so the lesser represented parts of our world are being slowly erased from these AIs. And they won't be getting in there anytime soon without something a little bit more intentional. Here is the biggest data set I was able to find that is specifically focused on educational content. And it looks interesting at first, but as you delve deeper, the way this has been made is that they have got it from the Fine Web dataset, which is just a huge web scrape of tons of web data. And then they used an AI to look at all that data and guess, is this educational or not? And if the AI thought it had passed a certain threshold, then they would put it into this subset. So this is just a subset of some web pages that are supposed to be the most educational. Now you can see from that it suffers from the same problem as the original web scrape data had. Here's what datasets look like. Right, they're just chunks of text generally, and you have a bit of metadata around them, and that's it. Big long list, could be in a spreadsheet. Another development, before I'll get onto that, putting all this together, another development that's happened recently is finally we have a definition for an open source AI from open source initiatives. So these are the folks who define what open source is. And it doesn't matter if Meta say their latest model is open source, it isn't open source unless, as you see what's highlighted here, it has sufficiently detailed information about the data used to train the system so that a skilled person can build a substantially equivalent system. Data information should be made available under OSI approved terms. So it's very important for transparency to know the provenance, the source of data, and for us to be a bit more intentional about the data. Whereas most of the AIs we're working with now, we don't really know what went into them. We can just surmise from the results. That's clearly not a good place to go if we're looking for a utopia as opposed to a dystopia, having these AIs with very strong bias. I will add, actually, if you saw all of the AI company leaders sucking up to Donald Trump recently and talking about the dominance of US technology. They're not really here for the whole world. They're here for the US. And look, that's fine. They're okay to do that. But I just want everyone to understand that that is at the root of the building of these AIs that a lot of us are depending on. A lot of AI tools out there are simply wrappers around OpenAI. Another development is there is this non-profit organisation called Fairly Trained that will certify fair training data use in generative AI, which is a useful concept and something I think I'd like to see more of in AI, that it's been fairly trained. It hasn't abused data or gone into those grey areas of using people's data without permission. And a lot of creators are upset about that, and fair enough. There is plenty of data we can still build our AIs on data that we intentionally put into AIs. And I think that's something I would like to see more of too. So onto the solution. The solution I'm proposing is that OEGlobal has a project that we can all contribute. We have 212 organizations, 220 individuals who are members. A lot of us are working on OER projects in one way or another, and they go up on the web in various places and they're scattered all over the place. They're not in one place. Firstly, it would be great if we could collectively work on bringing that together into an OER collection. We can also be sourcing reputable sources that we know of and feeding those through as well. And I think a lot of the work here will also be about looking for the gaps. What are the countries that aren't represented? What are the languages that are not represented? What's the cultural history that may be oral or in some other form that we should be recording, finding audio, video? What about all the information on teaching subjects? What about all the information, all the lesson plans, all of the online courses, all of the stuff that we work in? let's collect it. Let's collect it, let's curate it, let's have reviews, let's work on the problem of quality, and I can go more into that later because I've done some work on it, but I think quality is what we should be aiming for. And this OER collection should be in a central place where we have it all constantly being updated as an ongoing activity of OEGlobal. The actual tool we use to do this, we're not going to get into today, but MoodleNet is one product that I personally have created and could be used. It's actually very much in that field, but there are others, and it doesn't matter as much. What matters is that this collection is available to everybody because it is OER after all. So it's useful in its own right as a big directory of information for us to use in our own classes and our own education processes as well. But of course, once we have that, we can work on formatting it into an OER dataset. And this would be a dataset that is created especially for training AIs. So it's homogenized in some way. It's not just text, remember, audio, video, all kinds of other things. But it is in a form that makes it easier for AIs to use in training. And then we have an advocacy piece where OEGlobal is pushing this data set to all AI vendors. Now, Hugging Face is a big open source place. We should have it listed there and make it available to anybody who wants to build an AI. They can use that data set. But some of these big companies like Llama and Mistral and OpenAI and Anthropic, we should be contacting them and saying, please use this. Now they will be very open to that because they're all suffering from a lack of data. They need more high quality data to improve their product, and that's fine. And I even think there's a good case for them to license or pay or contribute back to this project in order for us to keep collecting and keep growing this data set because it benefits everybody to have better AI, more balanced AI everywhere. And particularly, I think there'll be special purpose education LLMs that we could start seeing in our community that are very focused on very particular topics or very particular languages. And they would also benefit from an OER data set such as this as well. It's important to realize that AI development or language model development is not a special source thing that certain companies have. It's actually open technology. The techniques are discussed in the research, and everyone is sharing their information about these things, and they're out there. And there are thousands of LLMs around that are being built and shared, and everyone's evolving. So, this is a way that we can influence all of them by getting that out there. So there's things to discuss. Is there other projects we can support or join? Is there strategic partnerships that we can have with other organizations? Pressbooks comes to mind. And imagine getting all the Pressbooks into the OER data set. Do we have enough funding? Do we need new funding? Maybe, as I said, get some licensing from commercial platforms to help pay for things. I think it's the least they can do with the billions of dollars flying around. Discuss the tools. How can we empower our community to contribute? It's an important one. How can we lower the barrier to make it super easy for anyone at OEGlobal or anyone in OER actually to contribute to this project? And finally, what are more ways to increase trust? And trust is a very big piece about quality, a big component of quality. Can you trust the data we're looking at? And this is a very important thing, and it's something that we should work on as a community to do that. And some of it is numbers. If a lot of people, verified people, say that it's quality, then it's quality. That's a basic way. There are other ways to check for quality by comparing with other data, cross-checking. There are, you can also prove certain data through experiments, and there's other things too. So I feel like this is a discussion we should be having. This is the QR code for the discussion on OEGlobal, where this is all happening, and I'll return straight back to the takeaways. So I want to make it clear that I'm absolutely convinced that AI is going to be creating most of the educational content in the future, because it is so easy to create content with AI. And even if you're working with AI to create some content, AI is involved. So it's really important that AI is really intelligent. It has a full understanding of everything. And we do have this problem out there of knowledge quality degrading. Misinformation is on the rise, a long shot, and we do have a chance to have some impact and help. So let's not just think of OER as something we spend a lot of time producing and then putting out there into a library so someone else can take it out of the library, because that scenario is going to happen less and less. What is going to happen more and more is that we put things out there to inform various AIs that are in the environment, and other people will use those AIs in their educational processes, whether to generate content or whether to convert content. And so they'll benefit from that. So it's up to us to make sure that the AI out there is as clever and as informed as possible about all the nuances of our beautiful human ecosystem. And I'll leave it there. So thanks very much if you've made it all the way to the end of the video. Let's discuss on the chat.